So the conference this year, we started with the Dev Summit, where we had an interesting whiteboard of stuff. Let's see what's back here. One of the FreeBSD committers did this. That's Erwin Lansing of the FreeBSD Foundation and FreeBSD project. So this is literal. So they had a wall that wasn't a whiteboard, and they would give us these sheets of whiteboard static adhesive plastic, and we put one up, and then we do stuff, and then they'd roll more out, and we do another one. And it was kind of interesting because people got to take these home as kind of mementos and stuff. It was fun.
We had at least one of them is going to be incorporated as documentation into FreeBSD by the end of the year.
I think right now you're looking at the documentation. Somebody's photos.
It's like the see also section of the man page.
Correct. So in Ottawa at the BSD conference, we do a similar thing, except it's at a university. It's the University of Ottawa if you've never been, and we have big chalkboards. And there's another set of photos I can show you that we had there this year. And I kind of poked at people, and then finally I just said, okay, we're going to review the FreeBSD 11.0 feature list. So I took the old feature list from BSDCan this spring, and we went through line item by line item, and stuff dropped. People said, oh, I'm not working on that anymore. No. And some people were like, oh, well, this is done, and okay, this is great. Whatever. It's just kind of an interesting review because we did a really poor job of documenting stuff. None of this, we suck. I'm sorry. The wiki for the Dev Summit has like a discussion of ASLR because I wrote it. And I think that's it. We'll talk about that in a minute.
So persistent state, why have the summit in the first place?
It was a pointless. Nobody took notes. We're horrible.
No, but I'm just saying, what is the net result of the summit? Not even just like woe is me, but what is the net result of having the meeting taken place, is my question.
Yeah, the point of the meeting is to make decisions, and if you don't make decisions, then...
Yeah, but the thing is, if the state is not maintained of the decisions then it basically was just a social, it's a face-to-face social.
Which is fine if you just want to drink coffee with each other.
Well,
But
there's some value to maintaining rapport with other people, because not everyone... A lot of people are better face-to-face, let's just put it that way.
Indeed.
And so it helps maintain a more neutral, positive disposition.
Yeah. I kind of...
Do we have copies of these things from previous ones? Like, did George post the photos?
No. So, anyway, moving on. which is why I was a little aggressive about this. I'll admit. I was like, no, we're going to do this. We have some of the smartest people in our industry sitting in this room right now. Some of the core contributors to the stuff that we work on are here. Let's talk about it. So the first thing up here was OpenMP. So there are a lot of people that want this. There is nobody actively working on it that I'm aware of.
Yeah.
So what is this, just the compiler supporting the compiler directives, or what do you mean by OpenMP?
That was a subject that happened around me, and I'm not familiar enough with the technology to be able to answer that question. Right? So there were people in the room, and then somebody said OpenMP, and then nobody said anything else about it. So as far as I'm concerned, this isn't actually happening. So
interest, but not doing.
Right? Okay. So, Adrian, do you have a 30-second blurb about what it is?
People who are interested in the people who can do it are just joining.
I think so.
Yeah.
What is it? Just for the...
Some like distributed processing platform.
Right? Okay.
Open multiprocessing.
Yeah.
Right.
Are we Wikipedia?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
It's just a general API for making
Yeah, it's for multi-node coordination, stuff like that.
Okay. I mean, so the Wikipedia page lists every operating system except FreeBSD.
Yeah. Of course.
AIX. HPUX is on there. Nice. Okay, so that was a thing. People, it was like, ooh, and then nobody did it. Kload kexec. So this exists in a patch form floating around the mailing list, and there's some amount of interest in it.
Brasso?
Yeah, maybe. So so this is kind of an interesting idea of, I guess it's kind of like just never rebooting your machine and just continually patching and upgrading your kernel in place.
Well,
That
so
was, right?
so the way that Linux gets to use it is they'll do a boot to start with some version of Linux that goes and figures out what the hell needs to happen.
Babysits
And then once
Linux.
it's like figured out what modules it needs to load and
Mhm.
what things it needs to poke, then it can go, okay, now I'm going to go kexec the master version of Linux. And there have been some people that do dirty shit like they'll put a smaller version of Linux in Flash
Nice.
to act as a bootloader, right? That sets everything up and then kexecs the more up-to-date free Linux off of a
Thanks, Ross.
rotating medium or USB medium.
Let's go over here.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's an interesting toy. Thank you, Adrian. So that is a thing that exists with no owners, untested. You search on the internet, you'll find a couple of patches about it. If you're interested in doing it, no one is going to stop you. No one is going to stop you. Yeah, emulated package builds, I've talked about it here before, I won't waste your time with it, but QEMU hackery happens and I can build stuff for ARM. The next couple of things, cross toolchain support, removing GCC 4.2 from our base system. And the external toolchain support. So this kind of is going into the fact that FreeBSD has GCC 4.2.1 plus patches in its, hold on, it's thinking. That's being currently used to support MIPS, MIPS64, Spark 64. I think that's it. I even think PC98 compiles with client. So right now we have two compilers in the base system. We have GCC and we have an older a pre-GPLv3 GCC and Clang. And it's getting to the point where it's impossible to maintain GCC. The patches that we have to make GCC 4.2 work were never upstreamed into GNU's compiler toolchain, so they all have to be regenerated against GCC 5. And all of the work was kind of lost to do this. And this is a thing that's ongoing. This just started to really kind of go into overdrive in the last 24 hours. Breaking the builds and doing stuff. Adding external toolchain support. Making it clear how to compile FreeBSD with your favorite compiler is a thing that kind of exists, and there are people in the community that know how to do this. I'm not one of them. I've tried and I failed. That's a thing that Warner, Imp, Warner Losh, and Baptiste are working on. Baptiste's name comes up a lot in the project right now. So if you're interested in kind of building FreeBSD, this is going to be a very, very interesting time over the next few weeks as things kind of happen. Userland dtrace was put up on the board and there was no owners for it. Okay, so that was a thing. SRIOV for
Virtualization.
the Zen driver implementation for the 10 gig stuff was discussed. There's actually a thing happening. Ryan Stone is actively working on it. It's a thing that helps you make virtual machines go faster. Sure. Networking, mainly. That is a thing that's targeted for 11. dtrace in general and PMC in general, George Neville Neal kind of was volunteered to make things sensible.
Mark, well, in the meantime, Mark Johnston is
Thank you.
Isilon to maintain dtrace, and he seems motivated, responsible, and
Yeah.
capable.
Thank you. That's George is
You know,
George putting his name there was, I think that was a mistake, and
enough said. Anyway.
and there you
Poor
go.
George.
Thank you. So there are several companies that are interested in running FreeBSD as a DOM 0. In the Zen universe, you've got the Citrix hypervisor, then you have your control virtual machine in DOM 0, and then you have DOM use. There are people who are interested in it.
I have no idea, let me know.
No.
Because, I looked at it, but just looked at the amount of work, and you're basically chasing Linux, and there's all these warped Linuxisms and Zen.
Yep.
And,
Absolutely.
And they just turned up my nose, much as I do with the VFS layer.
Indeed. Yeah. Kip, you don't know anything about this.
No, I don't. But,
Or they go to
Someone was-
NetBSD.
Yeah, exactly,
Someone
right.
was
Which has
working on
tier
it for
1
a while.
support.
So
Zen.
Roger, not Roger.
A very cynical representation of that, related to me by, is that Spectralogic had someone working for
That was Cherry, yeah,
for 9
Cherry
months and
Matthews. Nothing happened.
materialized, so.
No. So it's still not, Roger, there is a FreeBSD committer, Roger, he goes by the handle Roger. He's actively maintaining Citrix's stuff and making FreeBSD more compatible with their stuff. He's not interested in it either.
Right.
And so as far as having FreeBSD be the control virtual machine for a Zen installation, there really isn't an owner for it, and nobody's actively pursuing it. There is work being done to further it as kind of as a side effect.
Compelling case made
Correct.
for outside of Spectral.
Yeah, and I think Spectra's moved on.
Right.
So
So-
they're using Linux as a DOM 0, and they're doing stuff. So there were two topics: async send file, and I really need to change my screensaver lock time. Glebius has kind of said he has committed to getting these two features into 11. Work is being done on his end to actively do this. And I believe him when he says he'll get them done. Because he dropped a whole bunch of other things from the list of stuff that he was working on. VT and new cons are crossed off as done features. So they're done-ish for various definitions of done. See how long this takes. Oh, nice. That came up really fast. KQ64 was a discussion topic.
What's that?
Sounds like a video game.
Yeah, seriously. So, I don't know. It was discussed, no owner came up. More test suite. So, more tests in base, more things to test, capturing people's random test logic from different companies and putting it into the tests, doing more dtrace stuff in the kernel. Sure, if you have tests that you want committed, you should get them committed. MIB64 support primarily was discussed getting Clang updated to where it will build MIB64. Right now you're still using GCC to do that. MIB64, you can buy MIB64 things, the router, edge router thing, edge router Lite or whatever runs a MIB64 core. So if you're interested in that architecture, it's very interesting. LLDB updates to where it won't be able to replace our current KGDB interface. So it will be in 11, it will be an available compile time option, it will work-ish, but it won't replace the serial line debugging that people are used to when they want to debug a running kernel, inject things, and do various horrible things to the kernel while it's running.
So what's missing? Is it talking to the target, or is it understanding the trap frames, or what?
So LLDB has a little bit of knowledge of the whole GDB remote stuff,
Yeah,
but
because
it's not.
That's what they use, when they use the GDB remote.
And it's not quite working. So when you fire it up, it's the remote side. So the debugging side, not the running side. The running side isn't doing something right. I've never done it.
So the attach doesn't work correctly, or what?
Yeah. So you go to attach, and I think 1 out of 10 times the kernel just clicks.
LLDB doesn't know about the stub protocol format that we have.
Oh, you can use your own format. Okay.
Right,
Yeah.
like we took the GDB stub format and added extra crack to it, right? Because was never really documented very
And
well.
so basically LLDB gets confused.
I would say so.
And then it
Yeah.
takes the kernel with it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But for non-live debugging, for debugging of VM4, it'll work.
Yes.
Okay.
So it's a thing. I don't think it's going to replace like just KGDB to do kernel to. At this point, I don't think in 11 it's going to. I think it's still going to be there. I think KGDB will still be in the base system to debug your kernel core files. I don't think you're going to need it, but I think it's still going to be there.
There was a Summer of Code project to implement kernel debugging
Yes.
support to LLDB. How far did that get?
No idea. That's going to be an Ed Mask question.
Well, he said earlier today it wasn't terribly. There's a sketchy PS proof of concept for kernel debugging from GSOC.
Correct.
Yeah, basically wasn't a vote of confidence.
No, it wasn't. UEFI support? Ish, sure. It's a thing.
Nobody has a name against it. That's pretty funny.
Yeah. Nobody wants to sign. up for it.
Everyone wants it, and no one wants to touch it.
So right,
I get that
exactly.
feeling.
So there's stuff that's already in 10.1. It's
Correct.
just- It's not integrated into
No.
BSD install.
No, it does not. No, it does not. So the UEFI bootloader has no knowledge of ZFS right now.
Okay.
So you have to do a UFS install. Does BSD install know how to do EFI? Because I mean,
Well,
it's just like add a
right.
fat partition at the
Right,
beginning and
so
splat a
I've-
file into it.
At work, I'm actually helping somebody do some BSD install work. And if anybody knows anything about BSD install, let me know because I'd love to have a chat. I want to just,
Install it your own way? Like every other company, install your own way.
yeah, that's one of the things that we talked about. That's what I have to prove the concept this weekend. But in any case, when I grabbed through the sources for BSD install, I saw a couple of specific mentions of EFI as far as creating an EFI.
Was it
bootloader
actually
partition.
creating a partition and doing stuff?
If you told it to create an EFI boot partition, it was, GPT adding
Mhm.
with the appropriate, the name EFI was expanding to the appropriate, GUID.
The 10 directories deep, or it's
And-
like 4 directories, and then you splat the
Yeah,
file. And
I don't know about that. It was at least able to create the partition type,
okay,
and I think it was going to install a reasonable file system on there, FAT32 or FAT16 or something,
Mhm.
but I don't know if it was actually going to install the proper boot.efi or whatever.
right.
And I
If it
don't
makes it,
think,
it probably does.
Right.
It's only really one file that spots there.
right, but I wasn't sure if it was integrated into the interactive or for that matter, the automated installs where you could, pick from the menu or where you can put it into the config file and have it do the right thing.
I have a feeling if it was, someone would have done it already.
Yeah, I mean, we all have laptops, or we all have computers that have EFI support now.
Right.
I would think.
I don't.
You can't.
What?
I don't, none.
UEFI?
What's that?
What's UEFI?
UEFI? Yeah, exactly right. Any Mac user knows what
There are
UEFI
some
is.
pieces that are missing. We don't have
It's,
support for
it's
the
a
user
firmware
manual setting of variables.
No, he's making a
We
better
don't
joke.
have secure boot, which we're trying to get.
That's what I was going to say. Right here, almost got written secure boot, and then somebody erased it.
Really?
We're trying to pay for secure boot through IX Systems, but IX Systems hasn't got the money to add yet.
Okay.
Once we get that hooked up, then we should at least get secure boot to go essentially from the BIOS to the bootloader.
At least
Not
that
image
far.
signing.
Yeah. Cool. Good times. I don't know.
IX Systems has to pay Ed.
Yeah.
through us, because
Okay.
Cisco, you have to be an approved vendor.
That's fun. The next topic that was brought up was packaging the base system. So,
We have opinions.
so that is a bike shed of many colors. So the current plan, as it were, is that we'll do it. So things will be in packages in the base system.
We talked to, was Chris Moore involved in that?
Oh, was Chris? Yes, Chris was involved. So Chris and Baptiste have ideas.
Shocking, okay.
Okay.
I recently installed a recent DCBSD and it is all about packages.
Yeah, sure.
It is.
Packages are cool, man.
He wishes he could just like replace things in the base system using those too.
Yes, there are a lot of people that want that capability, but they also don't want. So the system. Okay, so concessions were made, and no design document was written up, and skullduggery is happening, I'm sure. Concessions are going to have to be made to allow for people to continue source building. Period. It's just a thing. For users, instead of using the SecTeam's FreeBSD update features, there will be a update feature that you'll use with PKG. Is the current working idea? There's nothing been pen to paper, so you know. But it's happening slowly but surely.
Maybe not pen to paper, but dry erase marker to weird staticky thing.
Yeah, it's definitely a thing.
Free PKG, free VSD or something?
What's that?
Free PKG, VSD or something?
Something,
I
sure.
mean, so Peter's doing it now, right?
What's that?
Peter's doing that now. The current rollout of the cluster was just that, right?
No.
No?
No, no,
He
no.
said he did one binary rollout to all the machines.
Sure, Wem wrote Wem shell scripts and stuff,
Okay.
and he's on his 5th FreeBSD build system now. So he's learned a lot, and he wrote a build system for the FreeBSD cluster that should just be shared publicly. I don't know why it's kind of off in its own thing now. So the FreeBSD cluster has its own instance of PowderKeg. We have reasons because packages have to be built slightly different for use. The options we use are different than the default options for packages in most cases. Yes, sir.
Sorry, the FreeBSD cluster is something that runs a FreeBSD development?
I'm sorry. FreeBSD.org is run. I'm a member of the administration team for FreeBSD.org. I should have said that. The cluster is a term we use for the many machines that are strewn around the world, supporting FreeBSD.org for subversion, for packages, developer resources, like Jenkins runs on machines that are hosted by Yahoo up the street. That's one part of the FreeBSD cluster. Packages are mainly built in up at ISC in Redwood City. They're another part of the FreeBSD cluster. QA develop KYUA QA was that development was originally done for FreeBSD. So the NetBSD code was ported and implemented in FreeBSD in NYI. So that's another part of the FreeBSD cluster. And then
Screen.
what? I'm not talking about the screen there. Is this annoying anybody yet? Let me see. Hold on. So when I say the FreeBSD cluster, that's a term for basically FreeBSD.org. I hope that's,
website
And all the subdomains thereof.
yeah, pretty much. That's kind of what I'm talking about. So it's 300 or 400 machines, give or take. That button. What does that button do? Hey, let's not do that. Let's disable that feature. Thank you. All right.
So glad we're not looking at what you were looking at.
What's that? Oh, right. Oh no, it would just been an X screensaver window. So packaging base. There are a lot of opinions. So how to break up base into packages that are logical and coherent. Yeah, that'll be a good discussion. So, like, gperf was just pulled out of base or is about to be?
Yes.
Yeah. So these are the types of things you'll start to see over the following months. Like, this will just be moved out of base and it will now live in ports. So things like that are going to happen. Probably, I'm assuming that the idea is stuff like the tool chain will just not be in base anymore. Or there some facsimile of that, but I'm not really clear on what's going on there. I think the big ones like OpenSSL, OpenSSH, living in the base system and not being a package, I think that's probably going to be one of the things that changes. Don't know how, but it will. The next subject, which has an owner, was 64-bit Linuxolator, the Linux emulation. It's a thing, has an owner. There is an existing bunch of code that's under review. It's targeted to be put into the base system. It's a thing. I don't know.
Didn't Linux later also just get a big like bump or something in version?
The Linux, so the Linux compatibility layer, I bumped the version to 2.6.18 because, what's his name? Thank you. So CentOS 6.5 compatibility packages were put into ports, and you can install those unlike the Fedora 10 ones because they've been,
God, that's terrible.
yeah, they're terrible, terrible packages. So this is not the support that allows you to run Flash and Firefox. This is the support that allows you to run Linux jails? No? What is the 64-bit Linuxolator? How does that differentiate?
64-bit Linux binaries on our machine.
Right
Right now,
Native,
run
right?
32
Right now you
bits
can use
on
One
it.
thing with the 64-bit Firefox that'll support that.
No. So there's a subtle difference here that I don't understand. That why this was such a big deal.
Oh,
Because
because
you can't run x64 binaries on FreeBSD.
no. The calling convention was different, and they had to go and it wasn't just a case of calling all the same syscalls.
Okay.
Like they have to go and re-implement 64-bit versions of the syscalls, and the 64-bit versions behave differently to the 32-bit ones. Like they took the opportunity to say some of these APIs are dirty. The calling convention, after that, I don't think was the same as 32-bit. Something this like, it was tedious. It wasn't complicated. It was just like tedious bullshit. And I think maybe the 64-bit stuff had some more like stuff that lived in magic pages. You know the
Sure.
the shared memory mapped pages that like for some syscalls the 64-bit stuff used that a bit more. Like
Okay.
there was crap like that. Like I just remember reading about the details and going, that sounds tedious.
I must have faded out there when that conversation was happening because it sounds like because this conversation went on for 10 or 15 minutes.
I wasn't there.
No. The one that was at Sophia.
Right.
Because sure, I think those words were spoken, but I don't really understand the full. There are a lot of topics at the Dev Summit, and when we
Yes.
started going down this list, there are things you just have to accept the fact that hey, I don't know anything about that.
There's another one in a month.
Yep.
So.
And that's on I'm going to pop that up. Let's kind of pimp that a little bit here in a minute. Beehive on AMD using using AMD's version of Intel's nested page table support. There is a project branch that's functional in FreeBSD Subversion right now. If you have a desperate wanting need to run Beehive on AMD hardware. If you want to virtualize stuff on AMD hardware using FreeBSD, there is a way you can do it. The feature set is not fully flushed out. Not all instructions are supported. Patch is welcome, but currently, I think Neil got volunteered for that, getting that done before 11. There was a discussion about AES GCM. Sure. At that point, John Mark had to go off with, so there was an immediate departure of about 4 or 5 people from the room to go talk about this as possibly a foundation supported implementation, because right now it's not fully supported or implemented at all. That's a thing that might happen. ASLR is an argument that was had and has been continuing to have on the mailing lists and internet and in private channels. There is a full implementation of ASLR for FreeBSD, address space layout randomization, that is not being, that has been blocked by some of the FreeBSD committers in the VM space, because there's arguments of whether or not it's even relevant, because ASLR has been, there are white papers showing that ASLR is irrelevant. They have problems with the implementation that's currently being proposed, and this is an ongoing kind of discussion. Sean Webb has put in a lot of work on this, and he's running his production environments, which are very hostile. He's running these environments live on the internet. So this code, the code exists in Fabricator, our review system right now. If you're interested in looking in that code or participating in that, that's cool. But this is targeted for 11, and some other obstacles were brought up, like being able to turn it off for debugging, so that you can, like, okay, no, I need to know that my stack looks like this. That was a thing that came up. And then somebody said put DNS++ up here and tell Erwin to fix it. Sure, that was a thing. I have no idea what that topic was, and then we moved on to a whole bunch of people complaining about suspend works great on laptops, but resume is the problem. Right?
Yeah.
Everyone, but suspend works great. So that's an ongoing, continuous opportunity for excellence for everybody with a non-Mac laptop.
The truth is to
Right.
buy your favorite developer a laptop that you also have.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's 100%.
I mean, I was tempted.
You buy a great laptop.
I'm probably gonna. We'll talk about wireless. I mean, I'm probably gonna go buy a Lenovo X240 tomorrow, because that's the only way I'm gonna force myself to go look at this horrific Intel wireless driver that we have, that a few of us have in our. It's atrocious. It's absolutely atrocious. But we have to start somewhere. We're not going to put, Adrian. We're not putting that in Fabricator. We're not going to put it in Fabricator. Okay?
Is
No.
this IWN?
No,
No.
it's
No.
IWL?
No,
No,
it's-
IWM.
Yeah, whatever the fuck.
Whatever OpenBSD called it.
Okay.
So there is an OpenBSD driver for the 7260 from Intel.
And it's terrible.
Terrible codes. I mean, it would, basically Adrian would just quit. He would just be like, I'm not going to fucking touch that. I'm not going to touch that. This is broken in every way possible that IWN
It
has
is.
been broken for years. And we're not going to do that again. It's just not worth it. It's not worth it. But as a prototype, fine. Does it even work? I don't know. It'll give us a roadmap to do stuff. libc++ was a thing that was discussed. Again, this kind of gets into compiler tool chains and support libraries. Okay, I mean, people smarter than me wanted to talk about this. No owner came up. No decision was made. No notes were taken.
Try again next time.
Yeah, so if you're interested in that in the base system, well,
Or find C++ people, I suppose.
yes, that would probably be a good idea. Kill dead drivers, shoot them in the head. So, does anybody have a favorite driver in the base system that's more than 10 years old?
Prism 2.
Yes, this is your opportunity to murder it in the face.
I'm going to.
So-
a bunch of like PowerPC related drivers we don't need anymore.
Don't know. I mean, there's a whole bunch. Yeah, exactly.
No,
Right.
you still need them.
There's a whole bunch of like questionable ISA gear that's in the base system, right? But you got to be careful, right? So like just because the thing is old doesn't mean that it's not being manufactured and sold to somebody. You have to be careful with this stuff. I mean, when we shot Itanium in the head for 11 as a project, yes, Itanium. There were some problems with that, with the user base. There is an active user base of some guy running a company on Itanium gear, and he was like, "What the hell?"
Other than Marcel?
Okay.
No, Marcel is the guy keeping this. He's like the point of contact for this.
The irony is after you guys decided to tank Itanium,
Mhm.
he found and fixed a bunch of long-term stability bugs.
It was brilliant.
That probably makes Itanium actually usable again.
Indeed it does. It was hilarious. So kill dead drivers. There is some cruft. So as we continue to add new features and new SMP locking and new call-out data structures and things like that. Okay?
You guys
These-
put my name up there on the goddamn board without me being in the country?
Hell yeah! Oh yeah. Yeah, right there. Notice whose name.
You know what I've had? You know
Notice
what
whose
I've
name
said?
isn't there.
You know what I've said twice today so far?
No.
Fuck all y'all.
Thank you.
I was there when he said it.
Yeah, absolutely. There is a cruft of drivers. They're probably going to get killed. So if you're using kind of older drivers on your systems and you're worried about that, now is the time to start looking at FreeBSD current and making sure that people like Baldwin aren't killing the drivers that you need. Speak up if you can test stuff, is what I'm saying. UEFI booting for Beehive. So that means booting Windows. Just, can we boot Windows as a virtual machine? That's what that means. Question mark, Neil and Peter were not there. Their name was put next to it. Don't put a lot of faith in that. That would be really great.
Neil's gonna be at BPSD.
Yeah, he will.
So-
Yeah, he will. That was. Everybody would like that. There are two guys that are working on stuff. That isn't necessarily the focus of their development. If you want that as a feature, you probably should start speaking up now on the virtualization mailing list. VXLAN was written up there, so
That was crossed out.
yeah, it was crossed out.
Did that finish?
No.
What
It is just crossed
What
out.
is it?
So, somebody smarter than me, please. So VXLAN virtualized. It wasn't
I would defer to
virtualized.
Adrian.
Virtual something like, okay, fair enough.
For VMware?
Was that it? Is that what Wikipedia says?
Yeah,
Please tell me what.
Yeah.
Is it?
Just off memory.
Okay.
I think so.
I'm glad you're paying
Wait,
attention.
isn't it like some nicer?
Oh God, is it?
Virtual extension.
Sensible
I
land.
should
Okay.
remember.
Well, it's on
I used to work-
Wikipedia, therefore
I
it's
used to work
fact.
at
Okay, that's
VMware, I
fine.
should remember.
I'll look at it.
Okay, so it was put up there, and then a whole bunch of people went, "Argh," and it was crossed off. All right. Reproducible releases.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, you
Who-
encapsulate the
What's that?
OSI layer
Who is
2.
working on that?
Those
That could
guys.
be useful.
They were there.
Dag and.
They said they were going to work on it. So
Does that mean
you can hold, you can go talk to Dez. I don't know if he's at, so those guys, so the problem is that you can take the same source code and you can type make and you do not get reproducible bills. Mainly because of timestamps that are inserted into the binaries.
And also the build machine.
Correct.
Yeah, postname.
Yeah. So,
You learn a lot about who built your machine, your thing though.
yes. As George was able to, when we got this thing booting at EuroBSDCon, he then took a picture of his screen and posted it on the internet, and there was my name next to the U name because I was building it on my machine. I was like, thank you. It's not something.
This would be nice actually.
Attributions. It's
Sure, whatever. I don't.
as many as possible.
Dang it,
Someone might
something
think you
I
knew
built
how-
and matched me.
Don't even you start. You know full well I don't know what I'm doing. So vimage, if you're not aware of what vimage is in the base, it's virtualizing the network stack, having multiple network stacks on your machine, handling. It's virtualizing the network stack. It's not virtualization in the sense of hypervisors and Zen and VMware and stuff.
That's
It's
why it's faster.
what's that?
That's why it's faster.
That's right, it's faster. So it's taking running multiple network stacks, having multiple software processes interfacing with those network stacks. It's not a
Firewalls,
what's that?
multiple firewalls.
Multiple firewalls. Everything about the network stack. Theoretically, you could have one network stack on one queue of one Ethernet card. Theoretically, I don't know if
It's
it's
useful for jails.
very useful
Yes.
for jails.
Jails.
Very
Well,
useful.
that's the way you can use this with jails.
What's that?
So the way you can use this with jails.
Correct.
Yes.
So anyway, Bjorn is, so BZ is Bjorn Zeb. His name was put up, he showed up and went, I'm not working on that. I'm doing such and such over in Cambridge for my PhD or whatever. So vimage works, it's not actively being maintained. Does it need work and love? Yes. But it's not something that's actively going on.
So I was interested in having that, so basically it's an option in the kernel,
Yeah,
but it's off by default.
correct.
So when you turn it on, because it's not on by default, there's sometimes you get kernel panics in different areas.
I love it.
And so I fixed a few actually related to Bluetooth. But I think the thing that is preventing it from being turned on by default is getting support in the firewalls. So
Okay.
PF, IPFW.
The PFW works fine.
Yeah.
It's the other ones.
It's PF, it's the older PF.
Yeah.
Okay. And then what's the third one?
Is there a
well,
third
IP
firewall in base?
IP filter, yeah.
Jesus. Okay, wow.
So I mean, those are the three things, so.
Okay,
Yeah.
wow.
I'm-
I'm learning more about the Dev Summit I attended here than when I was there. Because honestly, being plus 11 is hard. It is being
A large
really
part
hard.
of why vImage is broken is because when they wrote it, they really assumed everything was statically present when you booted your machine up. And some stuff like Bluetooth and Wi-Fi, USB
Mm.
things, what would happen is
Things would change.
well, they had a default VNet when you did the initial device probe, and then it turns out there are just ridiculous numbers of places in the stack where some device gets created or torn down where there isn't a current VNet state because a USB device magically appeared, and it's like, oh yeah, now I'm a Bluetooth device, and
Nice.
so there's still a lot of that hiding around that needs
So
to be.
they're
So
really.
I fixed for the Bluetooth and USB Ethernet.
Yeah.
But I mean, there really isn't, this kind of, so a lot of the advantages for me being ignorant of a lot of subsystems, this pointed to me that there is a large chunk of code in base that really doesn't have an active maintainer.
Yeah.
There really isn't a maintainer of this code, so.
But there are large chunks of the FreeBSD system where there isn't currently an active maintainer.
Mhm.
Stuff that people actually care about, like
No, yeah, but I mean, this is just the opposite case, right? This is one of the, where I'm like, there are probably a lot of people using this.
yeah.
Absolutely.
But
Huh.
for a lot of people, it's good enough. Like the
Yeah.
FreeBSD Foundation pushed to get it good enough.
Yes.
And that's why it's not on by default, because
Sure.
it's not.
So someone
Not
just needed
having- that's the
someone,
thing.
someone
Not
just
having-
needed to turn it on.
Well, the guy who worked on vImage, he
Mhm.
did it for his master's
Mhm.
thesis.
Yeah.
And so he got his thesis and he got his master's degree and then.
I've discovered that most of the FreeBSD networking stack and infrastructure is because someone wanted his fucking thesis.
So I'm just saying,
Okay?
if you're looking for a graduate degree.
Jesus. Don't do it the way I'm
Does he
doing
want a
it.
PhD?
Yeah, well, that's, you have to go work on Skynet to get your PhD or something.
We can
So
import Skynet.
it's in Perl, import or Python. This was a task that, for some reason, my name didn't get attached to.
What does it say?
It says Asian PKG mirror. And so what that means is, on the other side of the Pacific Ocean are all these people, and they like to do stuff with computers, and we don't actually have a package mirror for them over there.
There's seriously not a package mirror in Japan even?
No, there isn't.
No.
Talk to Sato-san about
What
that.
about
And I'm
Sony?
so angry about that because I got
Sony
him.
doesn't really use FreeBSD. It's like
Nah.
Panasonic. They don't really use FreeBSD.
Yeah.
They just occasionally go, we fixed that. And then you go, thank you. That's basically what they do.
Yeah.
Can we like hack an EverQuest
You
server or
wouldn't
something?
believe it.
Eve Online. Eve Online. You're so out of touch.
It wouldn't
So
notice,
out
I
of
guess. I don't think he.
I'm sorry. So this was brought up, and I was one of the couple of Cluster Atom folks there, and I was like, yeah, that sucks. So FreeBSD kind of has its own low-end CDN right now for serving packages. pkg.freebsd.org is actually a round robin, or not a round, it's a GeoDNS thing that'll point you to the theoretically closest package server that's either Moscow, outside of London, New Jersey, or Redwood City. Just
very
fine.
biased.
It's just fine for, yeah, exactly. It's fine for most people on this side of the Pacific. But for folks on the other side of the Pacific, that sucks. We don't have anything in India. We don't have anything in Japan. We don't have anything in China. We don't have anything in Korea. Don't have anything in Australia.
So fuck Australia. So who, it's too expensive. So
Yeah.
wait. So I thought that you were running the CDN through Alan's company.
Negative.
So you guys run
Absolutely
the
not.
infrastructure yourself?
Absolutely.
Okay, so what do you need infrastructure-wise? Like, what do you need?
So somebody needs to give us a box.
I mean, I can give you a box full of Twinkies. Like, what do you want in the box?
All right.
So
Go ahead.
I operate the China mirror.
Yes. How big is it?
I only have 1/3 right now.
Yeah.
You need more?
I will show you.
What runs on that one right now?
That used to be FPV mirror.
Yeah.
The new mirror style requires more.
Hold on. I'm going to solve your problem with the magic of the internet. Okay, so after a lot, people did not like my requirements for a mirror, and because Peter is Peter, Mr. Wem came up with, all right, fine, you can do this.
Preferably not Realtek. I like it.
Okay, preferably not Realtek. So basically, we can run a FreeBSD mirror off of one machine. That's fine. And so when I say FreeBSD mirror, I mean package mirror and subversion mirror. So when I say a FreeBSD mirror in this context, I'm not talking about www. I'm not talking about FTP. I'm only talking about this stuff. More or less, if you go to this page, if you're interested in stuff, this also requires Cluster Atom to have root. We own the box, which may be a problem in some places.
Interesting. Scroll down. Click, click, click.
As you wish. Well, you can just.
I'm busy fucking with my Wi-Fi driver.
All right.
Interesting. So you require IPv6 because you're evil.
Yes.
Okay.
No, because he's cutting edge.
Have you used IPv6?
No.
It's harsh.
No, it's easier just to use MAC addresses.
Yeah. IPX for the win. Okay.
Yeah. Whatever. So, point being, we can do something. We have not actively deployed this for a FreeBSD package mirror yet. Nobody stepped up with a box. Mainly, it's disk space. So the package snapshots that show up consume a lot of disk space.
How much bandwidth do you use to sync them around?
It's not too bad. I mean, it's compressed. It's probably 100 meg.
For the whole package set?
Yeah. It's incremental updates with rsync.
Oh, okay.
So things get updated incrementally. It's not a thunk. It's
Yeah, but for head it does,
update
like,
shift.
Because occasionally they'll do like all the packages change on head when people rebuild. Like library versions and shit. Okay.
It happens.
It's just one of the things
So-
about getting boxes into funny countries that like Australia
Yes.
is bandwidth as
Yes.
well.
So Gavin has some network throughput statistics for BME, which is the one that's in our mirror that's in the UK. It's a trivial amount of bandwidth.
Okay.
So Limelight's going to start hosting stuff probably outside of Bangalore soon. And Tokyo Sato-san has promised me. I gave him a Juniper switch to put everything behind. Whatever. One of our Jenkins admins is working on a Taiwanese mirror for us. So hopefully I really want this before 11. That's one of my goals, is to have this done before 11 because it sucks otherwise. It just does. All right. So I'm going to skip this because we already laughed and giggled about it. No, Adrian's not working on that. That'll probably be a Hiran and I will probably work on that as for science. And then harass Adrian with like, what the and he'll be like, and then we'll move on. I'm on deck to implement my first full RFC, PLP and TUD. Basically, if you're not familiar with it, which I don't know why you would be, if you're transmitting packets through a network that blocks ICMP, you won't be able to get back the fact that your packet was rejected for being too big. You won't see the needs fragmentation bit, and so you just won't be able to send data. The RFC for PLP and TUD defines kind of a sneaky way where you downshift your MTU and MSS to something ridiculously low, and then just kind of add packets and see where you can go. There you go. So the Linux implementation seems to be fairly simple. It works on a binary search. So it's proven that it works.
It sounds so precarious though.
No, it's fine. It's fine. Just add extra bits. It'll be fine.
Good action.
No network out there that will frown upon such behavior.
Well, they're already blocking ICMP.
Yeah,
they already
part,
hate
right?
the internet.
Okay. Bad.
AVB. That was the thing that came up. I blacked out that entire conversation. So I'm not sure. Philip is supposedly doing something with it. I think it was an audio thing. I don't know.
Whenever I see A and V together, I think audio and video.
Yeah, I mean, it was something. Okay. Arguments were had about making ARM v6 or v7 and MIPS tier 1 architectures. So the big obstacle to making those two things tier 1 is we have no packages provided by the project, and how do you update the system? How do I update without compiling natively on this thing?
Well, what about, I mean, I know features like dtrace, I mean, in terms of like, I mean.
It was a very vacuous discussion. There was nothing like,
I mean, it's basically, I mean, is it, what defines, how narrowly are we defining tier 1?
Correct.
The amount of sort of fairly important contributions.
I think it's I think that a definition for what tier is completely missing. So the FreeBSD page, there's a definition on the FreeBSD page, but I've never.
Right, but it's maybe antiquated because, I mean, we didn't used to have quite so much contrib code that was platform.
Is ZFS considered? I mean, so does a product have to have ZFS for it to be tier 1? Does it have to have dtrace to be tier 1? Does it have to have PMC for tier 1?
Well, PMC and dtrace are things that are really platform dependent, whereas ZFS should, I don't see a reason why it should work.
It should, if you have a storage.
But I'm just thinking, I mean, dtrace is, as these things go, is kind of a killer app, and not having it on a tier 1. I mean, I don't know, because you're saying it's tier 1, and that creates certain expectations, and to say, oh, okay, we downloaded it, but it doesn't do all these things, and so I'm just thinking some expectation management with the community is literally what you're, when you're calling it tier 1, it's more about expectation management.
Yes.
And so basically, what expectations do you want to set? Because someone's going to so you want to think about more like, what are they going to expect?
This was a fucking this was a hand wavy discussion.
All right, that's fine.
No, seriously.
So
You are bringing up, these points that you're bringing up were brought up, and the hand was waved.
Start them off.
And
This
then,
isn't the discussion you're looking for. yeah?
absolutely. No. I mean, seriously, I mean, you know, somebody plugs in a device and the maintainer all of a sudden gets a ticket for MIP. Exactly. It will be tier 1.
Will there be a reference system being clustered?
Okay, that is an excellent question. What are we going to run on?
You
So,
just got it.
oh yeah, thank you. Yeah, so here's your MIPS, your 24K MIPS reference platform.
So for a while, the discussion with MIPS references was like, can we get it into the cluster? But like that discussion.
That's a meaningless.
Yeah. So what happened these days is the rest of the world moved around you, and we can buy reference platforms for under $50.
Yeah.
And so now I'd rather, like, every time this discussion comes up, I'm like, the reference platform should be whatever that you can fucking buy from Amazon for $50
Yep.
less. And so,
Ta-da.
yeah,
$50.
like there's like.
Oh, also order the Ethernet adapter.
ZFS?
I'm just saying. I was super excited. I was like, I'm gonna net boot the shit out of this tonight in front of everybody. And then I open it up, and it doesn't. It's $25 extra for the Ethernet adapter.
And it's just the electrical connector.
No, it's totally just the RJ45, the electrical connection. Like the Ethernet chipset is that's what the 9331 comes with.
Break out the crypt tool and the.
I have those at home. Don't worry, I will fix it. It's fine. This I can do.